I'm here with superstar international winemaker Paul Hobbs. Hello, Paul. We're in Uruguay. We've both been tasting Uruguayan wines all day, as you can see from our teeth and face and hair. Paul, my question to you is: you make wine all over the world. You're hugely experienced. What is Uruguay to you? What is Uruguayan wine to you, and why should we be interested in drinking?
Well, I think one of the beautiful things about this place, Uruguay, it's a small little country in South America, obviously, for those that might not know. But I mean, it really, one of the great things about wine is its terroir, and the climate, and topography, soils, and the culture of the people involved in making wine here. First, there's a great passion for food. And they're really clever in terms of how they put together spices, how they spice in nuanced foods. So they have that kind of aesthetic, and so that plays into the wine as well. And they're very creative and adventurous in their approach to making wine. I think, that gives the wines a huge playfulness and intrigue. And I think, and of course, that's done in the Uruguayan way with weather and soils that are unlike any other in the world.
And you make wines all over the world, and one of your main roles is helping people get the best out of their wine in any given place. That's a very difficult thing to do. How do you go about doing that?
Well, that is something that's difficult to explain in words. The fact is, I like to get close to the people, and obviously, if it's been, let's take, for example, a historical country like Armenia, Lebanon, or some place like that, where wine has been made for, let's say, 5,000–6,000 years, there's already a culture of wine that exists. People have already pretty much sussed out the best places. So what I like to do is go into the villages, meet the people, and get to know the way they think and the way they farm and what's important to them. And usually, it's also interesting to work with their local varieties. Sometimes I also want to introduce something that might be, let's say, a Western European varietal or something that's not ancient into their world, just to see how it compares or cross-references into the new world or into the old world. So, but that's essentially, I guess it's 1 part science and 3 parts intuition. But there's a lot of that interaction with people, I think, that I enjoy.
And how has your style, your approach, let's say, changed over time?
Good question. It's difficult to say. We have various influences, the press, people's tastes, are changing, and it's constantly evolving and dynamic. And so, I'm kind of caught up in that as well. You're part of, you're apart from it, but you're also in it, if you know what I mean. And so, at some moment you're going for richness and power, and that seems to be the most important thing. In another moment, you're leaning more toward finesse, when finesse was a dirty word 10 years ago. And so, but in essence, the thing that still, I think, is trueness of place. The wine, in my opinion, should reflect or give a sense of place. And to me, that's, and the sense of place is more than just the soil and the atmosphere and the slopes and the mountains and this and that, but it's also the people and the culture. And I think that's, what I love about it is the interaction of man and nature, and that's what wine is. And so finally, it's balance and beauty. And you may stylistically change it with aging in this thing or that thing or doing. There's been different ways to change the product and the process, but finally, it will not work if it's not a balanced and beautiful product.
And you touched on some. It's very well said, by the way. You touched on some big themes there. I suppose my last question to you would be: wine's often depicted as being something that's quite sort of a niche interest, something for posh people or snobbish people or people who just have a nerdy tendency to want to specialise in something. What would you say to that? Why would you think wine is more important? Why is it bigger than that?
Well, wine is pretty much part of, I didn't grow up with wine in my family. In fact, we were teetotalers. But when I started to get introduced to wine, I realized, well, peasants drink wine. And wine was consumed by people that couldn't get water that was clean. So it was never, I don't think the core of wine is actually based in a very humble environment. And obviously when you commercialize something, and if you want to charge a lot of money, you get a little arrogance thrown in and so on. And so I think that kind of happened, and particularly that happened in France, unfortunately. And I think there's something good about it, but there's also something not so good about it. So I think people feel, well, yes, some people, it's intimidating or it's for the posh people, but wine is really, it's like a daily bread. You know, it's like the fabric of, I can't even imagine, and there's no, it doesn't have to be a ceremony or anything special occasion, because wine goes so well with food. And it cleans the palate, so when you know, that first bite always tastes the best. Well, when you drink wine and you take a little bite of food and then you sip a little wine, it refreshes the palate, and then the next bite tastes as good as the first one. And so that, and nothing does, I mean, I grew up drinking milk every day, so, and soda certainly doesn't do that. So, I mean, you can drink in such moderation that you don't have the feeling, some people are concerned about the feeling of alcohol or they can't function. But if you're drinking really high quality, good wines, and they don't have to be crazy expensive, but if you're drinking really good wine, you don't have any of that negative effect, and you have all the pluses. And it connects us with people. It's got historical value, it's something you can talk about, it slows down the pace of the day, it helps you reflect on your life and what's going on, and it's not just like you're filling up your fuel tank and off to the next charge. You actually take a few minutes to enjoy and smell the flowers and enjoy life a little bit.
Paul, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Peter.